What's up, everybody? Welcome to In Love with Horror, your destination for all things horror. I'm AJ.
And I'm Christy.
And y'all, we're about to go over True Detective Night Country episode 2. We'll be giving you a recap of the episode and then give you our thoughts on the episode and where the series, well, what we think the series is headed from here. Now, just a reminder, of course, if you haven't seen the series yet, this will be a spoiler-filled podcast episode. So take the time to go watch episode 2 or to start the series if you haven't started yet. We also did a video on episode 1 where we went over like the lore, theories, and like all this stuff. That's a dope episode. Check out episode 1 recap and review if you haven't seen that yet. But with this, we'll dive into episode 2. So maybe go ahead and start us off with the outline. We'll walk through that and then go into our thoughts.
All right. Well, episode 2 kicked off like with the normal intro opening credits. Like our last video, we let guys know that according to the creator Issa Lopez, the last image of the opening credits gives you like a little bit of a little clue of what's to come.
Yep.
And so in this particular episode, we got to see like this image of like a wall covered in like photos. And what looks like inside of like a house, like a rundown place or whatever. So that was our clue image. And then the show kicks off back where we left off, which is everyone out in the ice where they just discovered these bodies. And that was a really interesting scene because in that scene is when like the detectives are like playing around and
they weren't taking it serious at all. It was really weird.
So weird. I guess because they're out in this small area where nothing crazy ever happens. Maybe like this level of crazy.
Shit, like we actually got something going on.
Yeah. So that was really crazy. And Liz is like, she's not dealing with, she's like, y'all about to cut this shit. We got shit to do. Like, stop playing games. Act like hot. Y'all know how to do your job.
She was hot.
Yeah, she was really hot. And also one of the, I guess, detectives or whatever that, because they don't have a forensics team. So the people who are doing this are the actual like workers, like detectives, regular people. And he's like messing with the arm, the guy, and he snaps it off. Like it just snaps. And when it snaps, one of the guys is like screaming, like in pain. So he's still alive. Right. We got this guy who's still alive, which is crazy insane. Like, how did this guy survive out here?
Man, I don't know.
Like, we don't really know how long they were in the ice. Right. We assume that they were gone the whole 3 days, or this will probably be like day 4 actually at this time. But we don't know if they were actually out there that long. But if they were, that's a long ass time. And for him to be alive still. So that was really crazy.
Yeah, and I think also, too, we got to see how unprofessional the department was, which I think adds to how the fact that, Peter looks up to just Liz because she's the only one that like actually is really professional with her job.
Exactly.
So like everybody else in the department is just trash.
Yeah. Yeah, they really are.
Yeah, basically.
And she calls it a shit bowl. And I guess that was like her code word for saying like, I don't want this case. Like,
oh, right. Yeah.
So she's, Peter's like, oh, so yeah, I thought we were sending this to Anchorage. And she's like, yeah, no, we're keeping it. So, I thought that was a really crazy interaction, like just with the detectives. Also, at this very same time, Evangeline Navarro she's still like looking on because she's not really involved in the case right now. She's kind of just like hopeful that she'll be able to, get back in there. But her and Rose are having like a little side conversation, and then she notices like folded clothes and shoes from the researchers out in the snow, which I thought was also really cool.
Yeah, that was weird.
Anyway, so while they're doing their thing with the bodies, they notice the spiral image on one of the researchers' forehead. Yeah. And we discussed that in the last video. That's like the one main piece that kind of connects this season to season 1 as like the Easter egg or whatever you want to call it. And this symbol kind of pops up again later in the episode as well. But we'll come back to that. So they call this the corpsicle, which I thought was really funny. Because it's like, frozen.
A pile of corpses.
Right. But anyways, they end up putting this sculpture of these bodies into like a hockey rink. Because like I said, that they didn't have a forensics team. So Liz kind of like pulled out like the forensic guide, and it tells you how to like thaw out frozen evidence, basically, a body if it's frozen. And so that's like the best way for them to be able to, thaw it out and not like tamper with any like evidence or anything.
Right.
So we kind of like when Danvers is like going to the hockey rink or whatever, she encounters the woman who owns it to ask her, could she use it?
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of like realize that she's like slept with her husband at some point.
She been out in the streets. Liz is for the streets, if you ain't know.
Anyways, she's just sex positive or something. I don't know. But anyways, but yeah, I thought that image of the researchers was really cool, like, because I went and listened to the podcast Companion, and Issa talked about how it was made from like a 3D model of like a rubber 3D model, and they just painted it to make it look like the researchers. I was like, that's so cool. Yeah, but it looked really, really neat.
Yeah, it did look really good.
I even pointed that out to watch. I was like, oh wow, it looks really cool. Like they did a lot of close-up images of like the injuries that they sustained.
They had it looking good.
Frostbite. They had like burst eardrums. Their eyes were like frozen, or they looked really weird. Burned. Yes, exactly. So yeah, they did a really good job with the effects on.
Oh yeah, the special effects was on point, 100%.
Yeah, and in regards to Salal, we kind of like piggyback back around on that. So like in the last video, we talked about how there was a moment when Peter was about to tell Danvers like who was backing the Salal research, and I assumed that it had something to do with the Tuttle thing, and we did get confirmation of that in this episode. So that was cool, and then. Also with that, he discovered more information about what they were doing. And Liz talked to a high school teacher who she also had relations with.
I know. I told you. Hey, look, told you. She for the streets.
Anyway, she also talked to him. And he kind of like described them as being crazy, like madmen. Like they were really obsessed with this research to the point where they never left. Like it was like a thing for researchers to do that. Like they would normally like send in another team and, they was like swap out or whatever. But these people just stayed there for like months and months and months. Yeah. And they were really focusing on like finding stuff to stop cellular decay. So that was kind of like the focus of their research. So like, curing diseases and stuff like that.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah. And I really liked that we, in regards to her not being for the streets, like you said, but her characterization, like I feel like we got to see more of her, even like Navarro and other stuff like that too. We got to see more of their like backstories.
Yeah, we did a little bit.
A lot of more flashbacks, like for example, Navarro had like a flashback of her with her sister and her mom doing like this. She was like having like an episode or whatever. Yeah. So there was a lot of like flashbacks and stuff like that during this episode. But in regards to Liz, like I said, I listened to the podcast Companion, and Jodie Foster was interviewed. They were both interviewed, Kaylee as well. But when she asked her about like the character of Danvers, she was like, oh, she's just an awful person. And I was like, she really is an awful person. Like she's mean. Yeah.
And I mean, she's mean, she's rude.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you're going to get to it. But, we got to see a different side of her in the flashbacks.
Right. Yeah. And I feel as though we can see why maybe she became this way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away from the fact that
losing her family was like the catalyst.
Definitely traumatized her in some way.
Like just a whole bitch and sleeping with everybody's husbands and boyfriends and all that stuff.
Yeah. She there was a lot of moments where you get to see how she is no longer the same. But like like the way she reacted to Kayla, the Peter's wife, and her grandma putting like the cultural tribal marks on her daughter's face. She was just like super.
She was pissed. She's like, wipe that shit off your face.
She was so mean. I'm like,
super mean. And she even made a comment that was weird to Peter's wife. What's her name?
Kayla. I think her name
where she was like, you'll eventually not even want him home or around anywhere. Like, that's weird. Like,
it was weird.
She got some real deep family issues.
She definitely does. And And even that scene right there too was just like, it was just really weird to me. Like the whole thing was weird. But the way she is with Peter, like she doesn't really give a fuck about the fact that he does have a family and wants to go home to his family. Like she's like, oh, you want to go see your kid, put your kid to bed? Okay, whatever. You're still gonna go over here and watch these people.
You're gonna watch this ice. Yep.
But yeah, so she does have like very awkward relationship dynamics.
Right.
Like with the people, with her daughter as well. Like you could tell her daughter doesn't really want to be around her. Like there was a point where she was like, hey, come help me put these Christmas decorations up. And she took a beeline right back in, she didn't want to be around her type of thing. And Navarro even was like, no one likes you at one point too. Yeah. So I just feel like she has some real deep-seated issues. But in the flashback with her, who we're assuming is her son, the song is playing that was on the TV when she walked into the base, the same song. That's so now we understand why she was like trying so hard to turn this off. So maybe that holds some sort of like special memory for her.
Right.
And she was also dancing with the daughter. Like I don't know her name. I forgot her name. Her daughter's name. Do you remember her name?
I can't recall her name.
Well, the daughter's dad, and she had fond memories of them dancing.
Yeah, she looks super happy
like
and stuff, and
completely different person.
Yeah, because towards the end of the episode when Peter mentions it, and the daughter
he couldn't believe it.
Like, yeah, she used to
He's
dance.
Like, nah,
ain't no way she used to do that.
He couldn't believe it.
Yeah, couldn't believe it.
But for her, I feel like she also we kind of see like she wants the truth of what happened. Like to Annie, what happened to these researchers or whatever. But I feel like she's like almost afraid to go after the truth. Like when Navarro like presents information to her, she's like quick to like whatever, like so like brush it off in a nonchalant way. But obviously she wants to get the truth. Like but she's just very like weird about it.
Yep.
And then for Navarro, I feel like we got a lot more insight into her in this episode. I actually kind of I liked her from the first episode, but I think in this episode, I kind of like her a little bit more.
Right.
But you could tell like, even from the first episode, they mentioned like their mom is from here.
Right.
But they didn't this is not like their home. Like they didn't like spend most of their life here or whatever.
Right.
They had moved away for some time and then they're back. She's, very in your face. She's very badass. She's got like some serious swag to her. She doesn't back down from the truth. So she's like a little bit opposite of Danvers in this perspective. Like she doesn't care how ugly the truth is. Like she just wants to know what happened. And then them together. Oh wait, well before we get to that, I feel like we also got a little bit of insight into her like funny, softer side. Like I pointed out to you when she was with, I think his name is Kavik.
Yep.
She was like coming to him when he was in the bathroom. Like she was like, being funny, kind of flirty with him.
Being more like flirty and soft with him a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when they were in the kitchen, he was making her pancakes. They were having like a real conversation. She was kind of like, I don't know what to do.
She was more like open to
Yes,
him.
exactly.
Like,
So obviously she does have that side where she can be a little bit vulnerable. But she just only shows it with her boo thing.
Yeah, and it's funny because like even when she went to go, confront the dude from the bar.
Yeah.
Like, even the way she walked down the hallway, we were both like, damn, like
she
walking down that hallway, like she'll fuck up anybody come out this door.
Exactly.
Like,
she does.
Yeah.
And then them together, you can kind of tell that they have a history. And to me, I feel like she used to be what Peter is now. Because there was like a point where he was like, oh, I don't want to be like Navarro. Like when, she was telling him to go to the ice or whatever.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like at some point in time, she was looking up to her in the same way that Peter was.
Right.
And when she does tell him, tell her that no one likes her, she was like, and Peter is about to, he's going to experience that too. Like, I forgot exactly what she said. It was something like he's going to have his heart broken too.
Oh, right. Yep.
Yeah.
Did.
So
yep.
I feel like at some point she looked up to her, and when she was talking to Kavik and they were trying to figure out certain things that happened, she was like, "Oh no, we're not asking the right questions." And that was one thing
She's
that
like,
she
yes.
always said.
Yep. She's like, yeah, it's one shot.
Yeah.
So she, like you said, she looked up to her and she learned a lot from her. Because I mean, she's at least good at her job. She just sucks at everything else.
Exactly. Her relationships are not good.
Terrible relationships. No.
But yeah, and then there was one point later on in the episode when she comes over to her house and she's like putting away her groceries, and she's like, "Oh, the cans aren't here. Where did the cans go? Where'd you move them to?"
Yep.
So
it used to be really cool.
They had
at some
to be
point.
really close in some kind of regard. Yeah. But yeah, so later on, we also kind of get an insight into I don't know what's going on with Hank. He got some issues. But we don't get a lot of him in this episode. There's only 2 instances where he kind of like shows up, but like the first is when he's texting
the mail order bride.
Mm-hmm. And it's clear he's getting scammed.
Scammed all the way.
Because she's like, "Oh, I need money for my mother's medicine or whatever." And he's like,
he said something like, "Well, I still got some money put away." Something like that.
And I'm like, "Oh my God, he's clearly getting scammed."
That's crazy. Yeah.
And so she's like, "Can I get some pictures?" And so he goes looking for photos to send her, which I thought was interesting too. Like he's only sending her old photos.
He's like sending photos of like actual photos.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So
he could be like an old guy thing, or it could be that he don't want to show himself.
But no, I think it's more like let me show you my life type of thing.
I don't know,
because it wouldn't make sense to be like, "Oh yeah, send me a photo," but he takes a picture of. You know what I'm saying? Like you'd be able to tell that's. You know what I'm saying? That you took a picture of a picture.
Oh well, no, I meant so. He's like taking pictures of him when he's like happy, right? Because obviously the one he took, I think it was like him and his son, as the one that we saw him take a picture of. And he looked like he was looking for more like family style pictures. You know what I'm saying? Like, but anyways, while he's looking for photos, he realizes that the files for Annie Kotok's case is gone.
Taken. Yep.
And the next time we see him, he's showing up and literally hitting Peter in the face.
Yeah, he smacked the shit out of him.
He really did. And he basically tells him like, Danvers isn't your blood. I'm your blood.
Yep.
Like, you supposed to ride for me, not ride for her.
Yep.
So we talked about a little bit like that about that in the last video, like that resistance of seeing his son look up to her instead of him.
Yep.
And yeah, he ain't playing no games. And then when he's talking to we gotta remember her name, the daughter's name.
Yeah.
The daughter later on, it's clear that he's been abusive to him. And he even says, well, he's an animal raised by an animal. So he's obviously done this before. And he might have been abusive to the mom because she apparently left them.
Yeah.
She probably was like, "Fuck this, I'm out."
Can't do it. You know it had to be real bad. She left the kids. So.
Got to be real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just feel bad for Peter sometimes. I think I said this. I was going to give him a hug or something. But
he's smart though.
He's very smart.
Whole investigation scene with him and Liz was dope.
That was a dope scene when they laid out basically, all the pictures of everything, and she's taught him those techniques, right, of trying to find like the right questions to ask. And he goes down, like he's asking questions. He's been tasked to interview like the delivery guy, for example. And that's how he finds out that Clark was acting weird. And Clark being the guy who had on Annie Kotok's coat. Yep. And the one that was like, "She's awake."
Yep.
And he also finds out that he had a spiral tattoo. And with that information, Danvers kind of like goes off and tries to figure out, the meaning of that.
Right.
Now, in regards to Annie Kotok, in this episode, we got confirmation that the tongue that they found was indeed hers.
Yep, it was hers.
And that it was like maybe in a freezer of some sort, or it was kept somewhere.
Yeah, it had to be.
Yeah, which was so weird. Like, it got me thinking, like, who was keeping this frozen and why? What does it contain? Any clues or whatever,
Right.
And then when Peter discovered the tattoo, Danvers kind of followed up with that, and she finds out that Annie and Clark were actually in a relationship together.
Because she contacted the tattoo person.
Yes, to find out who did his tattoo, and she remembered giving him the tattoo, and she said he had a model photo for her to, base it off of. Exactly. And in the model photo, is Annie in her back, which is people thought that it was put on her or something like that, but now we know that was her tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
He got the tattoo after she passed away. And even the tattoo artist said, like, when he got the tattoo, he was crying.
Yep, like it's very sentimental.
Right.
Yep.
So that lets us know that he really cared about her.
Yep.
And I don't know, maybe he was just losing it or whatever after the fact.
Right.
And then the other key character in the series is Rose, who I really like. I really like her. I don't know why.
Yeah, she was cool. She's like a chill grandma.
She does.
Yeah.
So earlier in the episode when Navarro is like out on the outskirts of them, surveying the scene or whatever, she's like, you're screwed. And she's like, just come over to the house or whatever. So
because she already knows she's going to get invested in this case.
Exactly. All over again.
Yep.
And, I forgot to mention this earlier, but like, because she's like half and half, right? So like like I said, her mom is indigenous to this area, but not her father. I think she said her father was like Dominican or something like that. But she is treated differently amongst like the people, like, and you can feel like how when she walks into a place, like they already like, treat her just differently or whatever.
Yep.
And so I feel like she's taking on this case a little bit more so because she failed the woman, but also because she might feel like she failed that town, that community. Yeah, exactly. Yep. But so while we're there with Rose and Navarro, they have like this discussion about seeing the dead. And Navarro is mostly asking these questions because of her sister, and her sister is always saying she sees people. Yep. And so she's wondering if maybe she's actually seeing people. But Rose is like, well, there's a difference between mental health issues and spiritual stuff. Exactly. Yep. And she talks about how, she asked her when she first started seeing the dead people, whatever. And she talked about how Travis was like her boo thing. They weren't like together, but they were together. Right. And he was the first person that she saw that had died. And then she started seeing other people after the fact.
Right.
Now, during this scene, she does say Travis's whole name, and he has the same last name as Rust from season 1. And so people are assuming that Travis is his father, but we don't know. They could be
right. Well, no, for sure. It could be like an uncle or something.
Could be. So, but yeah, Travis Cole. And so we don't know exactly how they're related, but people are assuming that he is his father, specifically because in season 1, he talked about going to Alaska with his dad.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's one thing we got out of that. And then she talks about how the world is getting old and how Ennis is where the world is coming apart at the seams. And she also brings up the symbol again to Navarro. She's like, have you seen this symbol before? She draws it really fast and then wipes it away really quickly. And she's like, oh yeah, I've seen that before. And she said, yeah, that symbol is older than Ennis and probably older than the ice. And like I said earlier, I listened to the podcast episode, and Issa Lopez, the creator of the show, said that the symbol signifies like a higher plane or reality beyond ours, where the veil is thinner. And so maybe the symbol is related to this area of Alaska where things are not always like what they seem to be. So hopefully we get some more, deep dive into the connection between Ennis itself and the symbol and what that might mean. And it could also have something to do with like the mines. Who knows? Because I feel like right now the mines is more of a backdrop, but I feel like it has some significance, but we just don't know right now.
Yeah.
Also, when she was talking about her seeing the dead, she said there's 3 reasons why you would see the dead. Either A, they miss you, they're trying to tell you something they want you to know, or they want to take you with them. So one of the thoughts I had was, if these researchers saw Annie, like what would be their reason? What would be her reason for showing herself to them? And like, for example, Travis showed himself to her because there was something he wanted to show her. Exactly. This episode also answered a couple questions we had from the last episode, which was like, why didn't the guy mention seeing the delivery guy seeing the figure when he first came to the base? That was one of my questions. I was like, why didn't he say anything? But when Peter was talking to him, he was like, well, this is Ennis. Like, you always...
You just see sometimes people that aren't really there. Yeah. Like, so he didn't think it was a big deal.
He didn't think it was anything worth saying. Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then also, like, you know, talking to, like, the cleaning women, they all experience things while at this base, but no one ever said anything about it because it's just the nature of the town. Now, I would point out is when Navarro asks the ladies at that plant place, I'm not even sure what they do there, but it was like some place where she went to the first episode where that one guy went. Mm-hmm. Yep. She showed the symbol to the ladies there. The first lady was like, no, I've never seen that. But the second lady, she kind of looked at it kind of weirdly, like she might have actually seen it somewhere.
And she said it might have been some witchcraft or something.
She said that's what she said. So I don't know, but I'm assuming that we might see that brought back up again, like especially with the second lady for sure. But it just seems like there's a lot of like stuff that people just don't share or don't talk about within the community.
Yep.
Now we do meet this dude named Chuck at the bar originally.
That we mentioned earlier.
Yep. Yeah. That there was like a fight that broke out. But Navarro was trying to figure out, had anyone seen this guy Clark? Because once she found out that they were a couple, she's like, how did I miss this? Like, I thought I knew everything. Yep. Obviously, she didn't. And so she shows the picture to this guy named Chuck, and he's like, no, I've never seen that guy. But she could tell by his face that he was lying. So she shows up at his crib. She's like, you got to open this door, answer my questions. Like, I know you seen this dude. Tell me what's
She gonna get that info.
She definitely is.
Yep. She gonna get that info.
And so he does tell her that, you know, Raymond Clark or whatever, he purchased a trailer from his cousin.
Yep.
And he was like, that's all basically he tells her about the trailer. And she's like, I don't know. She's like, I think you don't like me or something like that. And no, I forgot exactly what she said to him. But anyways, it was something like that.
This is an exchange of words. It wasn't nothing specific.
No. And then she was like, well, I thought this was good because she said something like, I think you didn't like Annie and you don't care about what happened to her.
Oh, right.
That's what it was. And I think that that's the case for a lot of those people. Like, they probably didn't like her because of all the stuff that she stood for or whatever, especially the people who worked in the mines. And you can see that there is turmoil between the people who work in the mines and then the people who are indigenous to that area, because it's, you know, messing with their water and causing issues within the villages and stuff like that.
Yeah, because we heard that mentioned about in the bar fight. Like our water is jacked and getting dirty and all that stuff, toxic water, whatever.
Yeah, and then the mine people were like, "You should be grateful because you know
we brought work to the town." Type, yeah,
it's crazy. Now at the same time that Navarro was talking to Kavik about, you know, the trailer and stuff like that, she gets an idea that. The trailer is somewhere called the Nook, which is like a hidden place where you go to, like, you know.
It's like a trailer park. There's a lot of other trailer RVs.
Well, yeah, but it was kind of like known for like a place you want to put something where you don't want. Right, exactly. So she goes out there to see if she can find it. And at the same time, Liz is going through Clark's notes. And in his notes, like, you can tell he's like, his head is just gone. It's like the stuff is like super like scribbled, and he's drawing these figures, and he's talking like, he says that she's awake in there, some other stuff about her eyes or whatever. Now we are obviously assuming he's talking about Annie because it seems as though he had a really like traumatic breakdown or whatever.
Right.
It's after she got killed, but we don't know exactly who the she is. We're just assuming that that's who he's talking about. And then she gets the call, and Navarro tells her to meet her at the trailer thing. Now, when they go into the trailer, everything that she saw in the notes is all in the trailer too. Like scribbled on the walls. There's like stuff hanging out from the ceiling. He's got the spiral etched into the ceiling. Yeah.
And there's that weird wooden or whatever that material was for that big doll thing. That was weird. Yeah,
there was like a big doll. And I actually watched it a second time before, you know, preparing for today's conversation, but there's actually a second one too next to the body. It's like a smaller one, kind of like the size of a kid, which is kind of weird too.
That made me think of season 3 when they had handed out dolls in that season to the kids that disappeared.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't know if they're trying to connect the dots for all across the place.
They might be. You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had like a little kitty one, and then they had like a stuffed animal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just really weird. And then we see the image that we saw from the opening credits of like all the stuff
these
he had,
pictures,
all the pictures on the wall and whatnot.
Yep.
But yeah, it looks crazy in there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what in the world is going on exactly.
Bad episode.
Really bad. Now, as the ice has melted, Peter has been made to watch the ice, and so he realizes that everyone there is not there. Clark is missing. So, so do you think that the episode is about to end, but really they go into this like weird. There's a weird scene where you see like a ram's head and a crow and some other stuff, but then we go into where they're arriving at the rink. And they see that, Clark is missing. Now, Danvers is like, well, maybe he got separated from them and he's in another area of the ice. And eventually she's like, oh, no, hell no, that dude's still alive. He out there somewhere. Out there. Yep. Yeah. And so that's how it kind of ends. So because we could talk about spoilers, right? Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
now, he's obviously,
we already mentioned this.
Yeah, he's still alive because in the trailer, we watched the main trailer that talks about the whole season. We see him later on, in the trailer.
Okay.
So he's definitely alive somewhere. I don't know where he is.
Yeah.
Maybe that image that they show us with the ram and the crows or whatever, maybe he's somewhere in that area because they don't really show it. I don't know if it's like a building or whatnot, but maybe he's hiding somewhere within that little place they showed us really quickly in the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But he's definitely out there somewhere. And I want to know what the hell happened. Now, we might get some information from the dude that's alive. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're going to try to talk to him in the next episode. Yeah. That's what it seemed like in the next episode trailer that plays at the end of the episode. It seems like they're talking to somebody who was there.
Oh,
I don't know if it was Clark or the dude who was still alive.
Like, what happened out there or something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah, so we'll see. But I feel like this show is just really good. I feel like Issa Lopez did a great job creating this, and I don't know. I'm just really excited to see the next episode now.
Yeah, and do you want to mention the note you got there at the bottom? I don't know when you wanted to mention that.
Oh well, yeah. Listening to the podcast, she intentionally wanted to create something that was completely opposite of season 1 of True Detective. So in True Detective season 1, you have these two dudes who are in like the hottest place in Louisiana,
right? And
now we have these two women in the coldest place on earth, basically, almost. And yeah, she intentionally wanted to do that. And she also intentionally wanted to center the native voices.
Yep.
And I think she does a good job of doing that in this.
And that was cool in this episode too, when the grandma was there. And Danvers was freaking out and she was like speaking her native language.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure she's talking shit about, Liz and how she is.
I'm sure she was. Yep. Yeah. And I forgot how to say it, but I feel like it's Nupiat. That's the name of their culture. But yeah, so yeah, that was good. Yeah. And they didn't give us no subtitles either.
No, because I think you knew what she was saying. Yeah. This bitch, like, I'm sick of her coming in this house. You know what I'm saying? Like, probably some other stuff about, miners and, people coming and colonizing the area. She probably went down the whole rabbit hole.
Well, in the last episode, we talked about this, but it got cut out. But by accident, our computer got messed up. But, Peter is in a relationship with this Nupiat woman, but doesn't want her to share her culture with their child. And Danvers is taking care of a Nupiat child and doesn't want her to know anything about her culture. And it's so weird that these people are like this.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. It's really annoying. And I would like to know, like, what is it that makes... Even for her, because I'm looking at these flashbacks and obviously she had a child with a Nupiat man, right? Yep. So what's the problem? Is it
I
that she
don't
doesn't
know.
want to be reminded of his culture? But what's Peter's excuse? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might just be maybe it's one of those situations where like I'm trying to rationalize it. I can't. But the only thing I think of is like maybe he looks at how the Nupiats are treated and he wants him to kind of lean into his
Okay.
white side.
Maybe
in
so.
an attempt to try to like allow him an opportunity to
that's
not be
possible.
bear the weight of the culture.
I can see that. That makes sense.
That's the only thing I could think of.
But I feel like
in
at
a
the same
logical way.
time, it's like this is where y'all live. You
That's
know
what I'm saying.
It's not like they live in New York or something and they want to get away from their culture. Like they literally live where their culture lives and breathes. So it just
Now something's
really
weird though. Something that was weird though was he didn't like it with his own son, but when he saw Liz's stepdaughter,
he was like, "Oh, it looks good."
He's like, "Oh, you got the thing done." He's like, "Oh, it looks cool. Like it looks
I
good."
don't understand.
And I'm like, "But you don't want your kid
unless he doesn't want him to know the scary stuff, because maybe that's what
true.
it is.
That's kind of what he specifically said, scaring him about what
maybe
stories. Yeah, I don't know. But do you want to give your overall?
Oh
thoughts?
yes, I love this episode. I felt like this. The more we get to uncover the pieces, the better it gets. I feel like you can tell that the creators of this season put a lot of thought into what they put together. Nothing to me was like missed. It's like every detail was literally planned out. Yeah. She had a lot of reference material. Like I did start to research for this episode, but I was just like, I don't want to do that. I just want to share what I feel and how I think. But I did come across like a lot of things that she might have referenced, like just stories of like hikers who have gone missing and who've been, stuff like that. And I just feel like she did a great job of like creating this world and connecting the lore to the season 1. Now I did want to say like, what's his name? Nick Pizzolatto or whatever. And some old interviews back from like 2014, he had said like he didn't realize people would get so invested in like the small details.
Right.
And so I feel like on this season, I feel like she's intentionally giving us these small details. Like don't miss these little pieces because these little pieces are actually important. Yep. Whereas in season 1, they weren't really important. Right. It's more about the drama. But we focused on those things. And in this case, I feel like these pieces do actually matter. Yeah. Like just the small, like how I pointed out how Rose drew the symbol, but then swatted it away really, really quickly. Right. Like that might not have meant anything to someone else, but I felt as though that was important, Right. But yeah, overall, I think that everything she has done and created in this world and with the lore is just really, really well done.
Yeah, I agree. I think the episode was, this is another great episode. I liked it probably even more than the first episode because we're getting more character backstory, the cases kind of moving along, the mystery starting to slowly, peel back the layers and new stuff is being revealed and discovered. That's what I like about the other seasons is you got the mystery that's playing out, but you also got the mystery of the characters as you learn like their backgrounds and what makes them who they are. And then, ultimately maybe even overcoming the things that, weigh them down or, keep them up at night, so to speak, like that have caused them to be so closed off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like all the characters. That's the cool thing about each season is like, as you get down into the episodes, you spend so much time with these characters, you start to like, maybe not always like them, but you just get really invested in the characters. Yeah,
that's the thing. Because I definitely don't like Liz.
I feel like, but you're still invested in learning about her. And so I feel like that's the cool thing with each True Detective season. I feel like we're starting to get to that point with the second episode of this. But like, yeah, the lore is cool, the details, and I'm excited to see what they do next. I'm still curious to see how they're gonna navigate this spiritual supernatural element. Yeah, if they're gonna like go, all the way left with it and get real, fantasy with it. But I mean, overall, yeah, everybody's killing it. The performers, the production team, the values, the writing. I'm like, everything is good. Everything feels authentic and genuine. Even the dialogue feels real.
It does.
So I'm definitely just like you, hyped for the next episode. But yeah, y'all let us know, how are y'all feeling about Night Country so far? What do you think about the second episode? Did you like it even better than the first? What are some small details you noticed? What are some of your theories about where this mystery and story could end up? And after watching the episode 3 trailer, what do y'all think it could play out in episode 3? This is definitely going to be, I think, another very interesting episode, because that's how True Detective works. Each episode, like, it just gets better and better. You're just like, damn, like I really need to know. Hopefully these episodes continue to be really long too, because when they're over an hour, like, I like that. Like, give me that movie length episode. Like,
it still goes by fast. I remember like, how much time we got left?
Yeah, because we did pause at one point. Like, dang, it's only 10 minutes left. Like, that was crazy. But yeah, y'all let us know how y'all feeling about everything with Night Country. And again, if you haven't seen the episode 1 review and lore and theory video that we did, check that out on Spotify or our YouTube channel. But look, if you made it this far in the podcast episode, we appreciate y'all listening to the entire thing. Whether you're on YouTube or Spotify, make sure you like this video or rate the podcast. Make sure y'all subscribe and follow us to stay up to date on all things horror. Until next time, peace.